Hey everyone, this is Mike with 4 and 6 Music, where you learn why music works, not just how to play it. So, we are going to continue with our lesson that we were touching upon in the previous day, yesterday. So, for this lesson, again, it's going to be about The Cure, and we're going to look at Fascination Street from their magnum opus, Disintegration, one of the best albums of the 80s, in my opinion. And with this song in particular, because I was trying to choose which song from this album I wanted to go over, and the reasoning behind that, because, again, for our lessons, I don't want to just teach you guys music and songs, just how to play them, but also I want to go a little bit beyond that and look underneath the hood and figure out what's going on with these songs. So with this song, Fascination Street, the thing that I want to touch upon is the layering of the different parts throughout the song, right? And we get this layering one by one in the very beginning of the song, starting with the bass and the drums. So the song itself is in the key of C minor, so we got our C minor bar chord, and pretty much the three chords that we're going between, we're staying on that C minor for 2 measures, then A flat major, then G major. And those are pretty much the chords, if you were to outline them, what is being played in this song. But when you listen to the song, you don't hear those chords being played. Instead, you hear different parts layered on top of one another. And those different layerings are basically outlining those chords and that harmonic function within the song. So let's have a look at the very beginning with the bass part. So obviously I'm not going to be playing it on the bass, I'm going to play it on the guitar, because what I'm going to use is a loop pedal. So I'll put the picture right over here. This is my loop pedal. And a loop pedal is pretty much a pedal that you can use where you can layer different parts of what you're playing. So you can play one part, record that, and then that's going to loop and play again and again, and then you can record different parts over that. And this is something when I first got the pedal I was experimenting a lot on, is just layering different sounds on top of each other. And you really, when you do that, you can come up with some really awesome combinations and get sounds that you didn't really think were possible if you did not layer different parts on top of each other. And with this song, Fascination Street, we hear all these parts come together later on in the song. And it's really, really cool to hear because in the beginning of the song, again, it's just layering one on top of the other, slowly building up to the verse of the song. And then towards in the bridge area, right after the chorus, we have all those parts pretty much come together. And it's just, when you hear that the first time, you're like, wow, it just, it's crazy to hear how all those parts work together in a harmonious whole, right? So let's have a look at the bass part first. So the bass part, again, it's in C minor. We start off with our root, our C, and for this part, when you listen to it, it's pretty much sliding from one note to the next as we're going up the neck. So if you're playing bass and playing this part, you're pretty much just going to stay on the low E string, our 4th string on the bass, 6th string on the guitar. So when we play this, it's going to sound like this. And it's just that repeated over and over again. So the bass part is pretty accessible and I think approachable for a beginner bassist, because again, everything is on the E string, the low E string, so you don't really have to worry about skipping and going from like one string to the next. The only thing that I think is going to be tricky is just like the rhythm and being able to play that, especially if you're using your fingers. That might be a little bit tricky for a beginner, but as far as the notes go and playing the song, I think it's very approachable for a beginner bassist. So again, I'm using my guitar because I'm going to be using the loop pedal just to demonstrate how that would work. and show you how the layering on Fascination Street works. So let me just move back a little bit because I have my pedal right over here. And the important thing when you're using a loop pedal is to make sure you try to keep that tempo consistent, which is tricky and difficult. And then when you end your part, the first part, you want to make sure that you cut it off right at the pretty much at the end or the beginning of the next measure. So let's say we have 4 measures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. You want to cut that first layer off right after that 4th measure so that it's the start of the 5th measure, which would be the 1st measure, because again, it's looping, right? So that's pretty much what we're going to do with this part. So let me play that, and I'll show you guys how that would work. Here we go. So again, I want to keep a nice steady tempo, so I'm going to, in my head, and also with the string as well, just get that tempo. Here we go. 2, 3, 4. And now I have my bass part, and I could stop that, but then if I play it, starts from the very beginning of when I recorded that. So that's our first layer. And again, in the beginning of the song, we have the bass and the drums playing, and then we have the guitar coming in with this little melody over there. Very catchy, very straightforward, very simple. But before we get to that, the bass part itself, again, in the beginning of the song, in the beginning of the lesson, I said the chords that we have in this are C minor for 2 measures, A flat major, and then G major. 1 measure for each of those chords. So when we're playing that bass part, we're actually playing those root notes to the chord. So we have our C to the 3rd, our E flat, to the D, and then our next chord, our A flat major, we play that A flat root, going up to the F, our 6th, and then back down to the G for our G major chord. But what's interesting for this one, actually, is that usually what you would hear is something similar to this, where we're going from the B to the C, because normally when you're playing that dominant chord, that 3rd is super important, because when you play that B, it creates enough tension that wants to get resolved back to our home bass, which is C minor. But we don't have that with the bass part. Actually, Simon Gallup plays the B flat instead, which is in the key of C minor. We have our C minor scale, C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C. So that note, the B flat, is in our C minor scale, so it's in the key of C minor. But again, when you have that dominant chord or that major chord, the 5th chord, going back to 1, when it's in minor, normally that B flat is going to be raised to a B, so that when we resolve to the C minor, it's a stronger sense of resolution. But we don't have that with this song. Instead, the bass part just plays that B flat, which is correct, theoretically. It's just that you can use both B flat or B, depending on what you want to get across as far as the tension goes with that chord. But in this song, we have B flat, so it's B flat. Anyway, so we got that first layer, and then again, we come in with that melody from the guitar. I'll add a little bit of distortion for this. So again, there's our bass part. Then we have the guitar part over that. And there we go. And for that guitar part that comes in, we're starting on our B flat. That's pretty much our dominating notes for that melody, and that B flat, again, is the flat 7 of our C minor scale. And then we go down to the D, and then to the E flat, again, our 3rd in C minor. And then when we go up to here, that's our C. That's our root note in our C minor scale. So the melody is pretty simple, our first melody anyway, with the guitar. And like I said, with the loop pedal, we can record layer upon layer upon layer. So let's say we have that bass part being played. I can record this guitar part over that. So let's try that right now. And now I have both of those layers being played simultaneously, right? Now, with the next part that we hear, let me go to the song just so we could hear what it sounds like in the song itself, rather than just me playing. So that's pretty much what we have up to right now. And it's repeated, so it's played a couple of times. We have a little break. So that melody over there stops, and then we have this chord. And this chord is a C minor 6, so it's pretty much a C minor chord. When you think of C minor, yeah, you could think of the C minor chord over here. You can also think of the C minor bar chord over here. And what you hear with this song, and you'll hear this in other types of music as well, is rather than playing that full bar chord, only the first 4 strings are played, starting from that D string. So that is a very typical chord that you will see for a minor chord. And we're going to bar our first finger on the 8th fret, first 3 strings, our E, B, and G string. And then we're going to add our 3rd finger, our ring finger, to the 10th fret of our D string. But we don't hear this. It's pretty much that, but what Robert Smith does is he adds the 6th instead of the 5th. So he replaces that 5th note in our C minor chord. So we have our root, flat 3, 5th. And again, with any chord, the most important note is the 3rd. The 5th is the least important note. We can easily get rid of that. And that's pretty much what Robert Smith does with this. So instead of playing that 5th over there, the G, he plays the A. And again, that's the 6th in our C minor chord. Just like that. And there's a little bit of tension here, because when we go to our C minor scale, we're not playing an A, we're playing an A flat. So instead, we have that, again, that A note in our C minor, rather than this, which would fit in the C minor scale. But when we hear that, it doesn't really sound right. We're going to be playing, again, that A for the C minor, because that's a very typical chord. Again, it's our minor 6 chord, and for the minor 6 chord, we add the 6th, that note from the root note, our 6th scale degree. So we have, again, root from the C minor scale, root, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. So again, our 6th is the 6th scale degree, but rather than playing the A flat like what we have in the C minor scale, we're playing the A natural. There we go. And I'm going to play that over the layer that I just created. So here we go. So I have the layer. Next layer. And you could hear how much there is going on already. And we just have 3 layers here. There's still more layers to add on to this in the song. So again, we have that little break. And again, in the break, we don't have that melody being played. We just have the bass part and then that minor 6 being played. After that, the rest of the band comes in, and we hear this new guitar part. And that new guitar part, let's see. And then for that last note, it's kind of hard to hear. I was checking some tabs and online because, you know, especially when I'm learning a song, I'm going to see what other people think the part how other people think the part goes. That's important for me when I'm researching and trying to figure out how to play a song. Yeah, I'll use my ears, but, you know, ears and listening can sometimes be deceptive. It's a good idea when you're learning a song to check sources that are already available, because people might hear something that you don't hear. And, you know, that's something I learned when I was in college. I was in a guitar ensemble, and one of the guys in the guitar ensemble, he was going for his doctorate, and he had to transcribe a couple of different charts. And for some of those charts, some of the parts sounded a little bit weird to me, only because I played some of these charts and listened to some of these songs for a little while, so I was somewhat familiar with them. And the way I heard them was different from the way that the other student in the ensemble transcribed them and the way that he heard them. So, I mean, and he was a doctorate student, and he's an awesome player. So never think that you're always going to be 100% correct. There can be a little bit of room for error, and like I said, it's always a good idea. Just check online sources and to see what's available and how other people are hearing that song, because it might be a little bit different from the way that you hear it, right? So let me layer that next part on top of all of the layers that I already have. So again, we have 3 layers. Now we're going to add that 4th layer over there. Mistake over there as well, and this is something that you can do with the loop pedal, which is really nice, because inevitably you are going to make a mistake, and I was waiting for when I would make a mistake because that is going to happen. So if you do make a mistake after the first layer for this particular pedal, it's nice because unfortunately with that first layer, if you make a mistake, that mistake is there. You'll have to start again. But after you complete that first layer, if everything is good with that, then all the preceding layers, all the layers above that, let's say you make a mistake when you're recording, what you can do is you can actually delete that, and that's what I'm going to do right now. Let's see. Oh. All right. So now I got rid of that part that I just played, because again, it was wrong. So I want to get rid of that. I did, and now I'm going to re-record it, and let's see if I re-record it correctly or not. All right, here we go. did. So, nice. Good for me. So, now we have 4 layers, and you already hear how busy that is. And again, there's still a couple more things that are going to be put into that, into the song to layer over what we just played, right? So, again, in this song, we're not even at the 2-minute mark. We're at 1 minute and 35 seconds right now. And again, this is just a slow burn. It's just basically, it's building on top of each other, nice and slow. Almost very similar to Eraser by 9 Inch Nails from the Downward Spiral album. That song in particular is what really got me into layering, because when you listen to that in the very beginning, there's just a very simple, almost like a computer sounding part, and then it's built on top. There are parts built on top of that, such as percussion parts, other computerized sounding parts, and then guitar, bass, and all of that. So that for me was my introduction to layering, and I think Robert Smith in Fascination Street does it so well. And especially once we get past that first chorus, when we hear all of it come together. So let me actually before I fast forward to that part, we will hear another part. Right over here, the keyboard part. So we hear that keyboard part come in. Just like that. And all of that is based off of the C minor scale, because again, the song is in C minor. So there's not really a whole lot going on in this song as far as going out of the key or doing anything crazy. It's all like pretty simple melodies just built on top of each other. And when it's combined, it sounds pretty complex. So let's see if I can add that last part to the loop, and then afterwards I'll fast forward to the bridge past the first chorus, so you can hear what all of that sounds like when we put it together. So let me, again, play that part. Here we go. Now we have all of those parts together, and again, you hear how complex that sounds, but we started off from a very basic bass part that's played at the very beginning of the song. So let me fast forward to that section so you could hear what that sounds like in the song itself when it's all put together. Really cool stuff. Really cool stuff. And that's just one song off of this masterpiece of an album. So if you've never heard Disintegration, I highly recommend checking this album out. And if you really enjoy this album, go back and listen to some of The Cure's other albums, because honestly for me, this isn't even my favorite album by The Cure. I'm going to get to that in the next lesson video. So anyway, just like I said in the beginning of the lesson, this song is a great song to learn layering with, because again, a lot of times with songs, there's some simple parts going on, but they sound a lot more complex than they are because of the layering, because of one part over another. And when you add all those parts together, it does sound very busy. It does sound like a lot's going on, but it's really just like several simple parts layered one on top of another. So that's something that you can learn with this song, as well as others, such as Eraser from 9 Inch Nails, like I mentioned earlier. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Like I said, I have the third and final installment of this Cure lesson series in which I'm going to go over another song, probably two songs from, again, my personal favorite album by The Cure, though Disintegration itself is a fantastic record, and like I said, I'd say probably one of the best of the 80s. So, hope you enjoyed the lesson, and I will see you guys in the next video. See you then. Rock and roll.